Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. I've got £3.5 million worth of property and I've got 6 figures in index funds. And today what we're going to be talking about, because I've got £1.7 million worth of mortgages, should we, or should I, I'm going to relate it to myself, be paying down my mortgages as interest rates have started to rise? Or should I be using that money for other things? And before we get into the video, before I get incredibly personal with you guys, if I could possibly ask for a big like, it really does help me out with the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, why not consider subscribing? We have our subscriber dividend portfolio where we give away the dividends from that every single month. It's drawn around about the 10th. And at the moment we've got 3.5 grand in. I'll be putting another £1,000 into that in the next couple of days. And as that grows, you and I get to take part in the same passive income journey, which really helps solidify that thought process of how do we create passive income? How long does it take? And what does it actually look like when it comes out? And by giving it to you guys, hopefully it inspires you guys to create some passive income for yourself. So guys, let's talk about my mortgages and whether I should be paying them down. Because interest rates, I mean, come on, let's look at it. In the papers, it's everywhere. Mortgage rates rising at record rate. At a record rate. Mortgage rates rising at a record rate. Well, how difficult is that to say? Incredibly difficult. And we have literally just been quoted about 6% on a 2-year fixed for one of our HMOs. Now, should I be paying some of this debt down? I've got £1.7 million worth of debt. And I think what's really important to understand is it's not all coming due in terms of its interest rate anytime soon. I've got lots of it happening in 2024, 2025, and 2026. So I have actually got plenty of time to make decisions around this. But what this question really comes down to is opportunity cost and cash flow. That's what it comes down to. Because cash in your bank has an opportunity cost. Cash paid off your mortgage has an opportunity cost because you could use it for other things. So here's where it all comes down to, is can you make more out of the money, risk adjusted, and there is risk, the risk is guaranteed if you go out and try and make more, against the interest rate that you'll be borrowing at. So for this example, I think we'll use 5 or 6%, something like that, because that's what's in the papers as where interest rates might be. And we'll talk about how you might be able to make more and what risk that contains. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out on every £100,000 what that means in interest. So on 100k, you're looking at somewhere in the region of £5,000. Well, not somewhere in the region of, it's very easy maths. You should be able to work it out. It's 5k. So for every 100,000, it's 5k a year. That means, for me, that's an increase of about 50% because I'm paying, at the moment, my average is about 2.5%. I've got some at 3.5, I've got some a little lower at like 1.9. I've got some debt in my personal name, I've got some debt in limited companies. So it's a big plethora of interest rates, but ultimately my average on my portfolio comes around 2.6, 2.7. So this would be about double. But the interest wasn't the only thing that was taken into consideration when I was buying my properties. In fact, my interest payments, although a large proportion of the costs of running the portfolio, it's not the whole picture. And when you look at my portfolio as a whole and you go, okay, well, on average, it brings in, I don't know, somewhere in the region of £19,000 a month in terms of rent. Now, a huge proportion of that goes in costs, obviously. I would say it's somewhere around about 11,000 goes on costs. Of which, and I am just generally thinking and trying to work out not exactly, this won't be the exact number, but let me give you a general idea. £1.7 million worth of debt, about 3.5, 4 grand, somewhere between those two numbers is interest. So if I added another 3.5 to 4k of interest to that number, well, that would bring me still with a decent profit, right? At the moment, I'm making about, I don't know, somewhere about 8k a month. And obviously some months are better, other months are worse, you know, things happen. Boilers break, just had one of those this month, so I'm a bit of a sore point. Now, it's still a commercially viable product. It might not be the best use of capital at that point, but it's still commercially viable. And that is considering that we're not going to raise rents at all. We're going to see all these additional costs as landlords, and we're going to sit down and we're going to go, we're not going to raise any rents. I just don't see that as a possibility. House prices might come down, absolutely, but I think rents would have to go up as well in order to soak up this extra interest rate over the long period. far more likely that interest rates would have to come down in that scenario because there would just be all these recessionary pressures. Now, this is getting into the realm of predictions and should I and would I and all this sort of stuff. But ultimately, this 5%, can I make more than that out of my money? Well, I think I probably can. If I went out and negotiated on a property, do I think if I saw 100 properties that one of those sellers would give me a 10% discount on their property? I think they would. I think if I looked at a 100k property, I'd be able to secure at least one of them for 90. And that means I'd make 10% on that money, wouldn't I, if I bought it in cash? Now, I wouldn't be buying it in cash, I would be buying it with a mortgage, and this is where it gets really interesting. Because you'd say I've only got 25 grand in it, and I made 10k on the day I bought it. Now that is a huge return, and this is why property is such an interesting investment class, because the opportunity is always great if you can negotiate great deals. And when's the best time to negotiate great deals? When interest rates are rising and people are struggling. Of course it's the best time. So for me, I can't see an example or a time where I'll want to pay that interest down. What I think is much more likely is I'm quite happy over time to allow that to level off and become a lesser part of my portfolio. If we look 20 years in the future, perhaps it's become worth 6 million or 7 million pounds worth of property, and I've still got 1.7 million pounds worth of debt. As I get a bit older, maybe I want less risk. I can see that into my future. But I can't see a time where I can't make 5% on my money or better. So I think with mortgages always going to be, or always traditionally have been, the cheapest form of lending, and probably always will because they're secured against an asset, I think that's probably the case. I think I can always make more than 5%. Now that might not be the case for yourself. I don't know your personal circumstances, but that is why I'm stacking cash. I have got money and I could pay down some of my loans. I couldn't pay 1.6 million or 1.7 million, no way. I haven't got anywhere near that number. But I have got close to £100,000, I would guess, that I could get my hands on. So it would be a good start to dropping that, but I would rather keep that on the sidelines, right? I would rather have that into a position where I'm ready to deploy it and make some serious cash and some serious returns. Guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Remember, opportunity cost. It is the key thing when you're trying to decide whether you're going to pay down interest rates. I know these times are scary. I'm not going to pretend that I'm enjoying an environment where it's a bit rocky, but I do see the opportunity. So guys, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. Give it a big like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.